All right, so we have these questions stored in MongoDB. We would like to be able to interact with these questions. So let's head over to our Node.js, right, and create a couple of mongoose schemas and models so that we can read these questions, right, retrieve them from the database, and perhaps also associate them to the quizzes they might belong to. Okay. Actually, let me say that again. What I mean to say is that let's first add some of these questions to the quizzes first, right? So let's do that. All right, so we have these quizzes that we have inserted, and we also, I'm sorry, questions. So we have these questions that we have inserted into the database. We also have some quizzes as well, right? We can display the quizzes. So db.quizzes.find. Right, so we have questions, we have quizzes. Right now, they're not related at all, right? They don't know anything about each other, right? So, and again, there's several ways of establishing relationship. We could have the questions have foreign keys to the quizzes they belong to. We can have a mapping collection saying that these questions belong to these quizzes. So those are the two different options. Those two options are also available if you're doing a relational database. But here, I'd like to show you an alternative way of creating that association. What we could do is that we could have some of these questions belong to some of the quizzes, by keeping track of an array of the questions that belong to each one of the quizzes. So let's do that. Let's add maybe this first question. We'll add it to the first quiz, quiz A. So let's do that. So let's modify quiz A, right, to have that first question, right? So let's grab the ID of quiz A, right, so that we can update quiz A. So we can say db.quizzes. I like to update the quiz whose ID is equal to this object ID. So let's grab that, paste that in there. So now I have identified the quiz that I want to modify, comma, I would like to push, right? I would like to add a new item to an array. Now, notice that the current quiz A doesn't have any array, and that's fine. Push, it will create the new property, right, if it's not already there, right? And it will add the item that we want to add. So what do we want to push? We want to push onto a field that doesn't exist. We'll call it questions. What we want to push in there? One of these questions. So let's add and push this first question. So I'm going to grab the ID, and I'm going to push the ID. Close that. I close the push and close the parentheses. Right. All right. So we were able to insert, right, a brand new item into a brand new property of an existing object, right? If we do a find again on the quizzes, notice that now, and let's print it so we can read it. Notice now that our quiz A, has a brand new property called questions that is an array, right, that contains a string. Now this string, it could be treated just as a plain string, but we know that really that string should be interpreted as a reference to some other record, right? Which is fine, right? It's being treated as a foreign key. It's an array of foreign keys. Well, let's try and doing the same thing. Maybe quiz B. Let's add maybe 2 questions to quiz B. Right. So let's head over and update. Right, and we're going to update this other quiz B. So I'm going to copy that. Right, and I'm going to update it so that it's this particular quiz. Also notice, let's actually use the same question, right? So that we can illustrate the fact that we can have 2 quizzes that are referencing the same question, right? I mean, that was the whole point of deciding to go this way, right? Where you can have quizzes, maintaining arrays of references to a whole bunch of quizzes, right? A whole bunch of questions, right? Which cannot be implemented with a relational database if you have a foreign key from the child back to the parent. That cannot be implemented. The only way to implement a many-to-many is to have a mapping table in between. But here we have an alternative, right? We can have an array in the parent that has references to all the children. So let's add the same question, right, to this quiz B, and let's add an additional question, right? Let's add the second question to the same quiz. So same quiz, but we're going to add a second question. So let's add the second question. Let's see if we can see that second question. So that was the first question. Let's add this second question. So what the first question was a true false. The second question is going to be a multiple choice. Let's copy that. Let's head over. Let's paste here. There we go. Now let's look at all the questions and see what they look like now. So db.questions.find.pretty. Let's see what they look like now. I didn't mean the questions, the quizzes I meant. There they are. So notice that quiz A has an array of references to the first question, and quiz B has references to 2 questions, of which the first one is shared amongst quiz A and quiz B, right? And it has an additional question here, so it has 2 questions, right? One is a true false, and the other one is the multiple choice. Excellent. So we actually have a nicer additional ways of modeling the structure of our data.